Hey friends, today I'm sharing a cute project using this fun fall scrapbook paper. Guys, I am Tracy. I'm so glad that you're here and let's get started. The paper that I am using is from this collection from Miss Kate Designs. It is the Give Thanks paper collection, and I'm going to show you here real quick what cute designs. You can see them here on the cover photo. That is all of the designs in this paper pack. They are very good quality cardstock, so it really just depends on what you want for your collection, but just sharing with you and actually where you can get it. She does have other seasons and other designs available, so just check out the link in the description box. So what I'm using are these patterns, this kind of like brown and then the mustard, and then I added a third pumpkin on it, and I couldn't decide out of the Swiss dots or the check, so I decided to incorporate both of them, and I'll show you how I did that when I get to that pumpkin. I'm starting with this frame that I got for 90% off at Hobby Lobby. I paid $1.79 for it. And then for the dimension or the upcycle recycle, I'm using the actual mailing box that I got from Miss Kate Cuttables for my scrapbook paper because I had ordered several stacks of it. And so I just cut off pieces of that. And I'm going to be using that for dimension. All right, so for a background for my frame, I'm just taking some lunch bags. Now, these just came from my local grocery store, and I just crumpled up 2 of them. I'm just going to be adhering them with some Mod Podge and a foam brush, just putting that on there, and then I let that dry. I want a bit of crinkles in it. I don't want it to be very smooth. I want it to look rustic and country that I like. And so it's so amazing how you can create different effects and different textures just with brown bags. So this project is one that I did. I was a presenter on Facebook in an event called the Fall Bonfire Bash, and I did it on my page, on my Facebook page. Well, Facebook was not being very kind to me that day. My video was not clear. It was very blurry. And so I was doing the Facebook Live, but then I turned on my overhead camera to capture, or hopefully that was my intention, to capture everything, but my video camera didn't want to cooperate either, and it only caught part of some of the video. So I have no idea what's all about that, but no worries. I went ahead and, captured what I could. So let me tell you what I did. I took some of that cardboard and just ripped it, and kind of like the tall pumpkin, I'm just adhering the paper also with some Mod Podge like I like to do, and so that is going to be the tall pumpkin. I use some of that mustard striped paper for the squattier pumpkin, and also I use some of that blue for the third pumpkin that I included in this decor piece. So like I mentioned, I couldn't decide if I wanted to use the Swiss dot or the small polka dot or the check. So I decided to incorporate both of them for this third pumpkin. That's kind of like the medium pumpkin. And so what I'm doing is what I did is I just cut strips off of them just with my paper trimmer. And then I'm just going to attach these strips with some Mod Podge. And I tried to be a little precise at the beginning, just try to tear them, but then I'm like, you silly girl, just tear them after they're dry. So that's what I do then. I, work smarter, not harder. And so then I'm going to, add some distressing with my vintage distress ink, which I like to do for my projects, and just really make this recycled, upcycled decor piece using one of those frames that I picked up from Hobby Lobby, 90% off, just some of this cute scrapbook paper, and just add a lot of the fun, whimsical embellishments that I like to do for my projects. And have I told you lately how happy I am that you are here? Thank you so much for being part of my channel here on YouTube, and I appreciate you watching and all of your sweet and kind comments and support. So I decided to go ahead and redo the welcome fall and add y'all to it. I had done the welcome fall, done that on that Facebook Live, but I really wasn't happy with it because I wanted it to be a little bit longer to kind of, fill up more of the sign at the top. And so that's what I did. I just did some hand lettering. Now, if you are interested in learning how to hand letter, what I suggest is finding a font that you like. I do have some fonts that I have found with the dots. I will leave a link in the description box to actually where you can download those, and then you can practice. You can print out different words. You can use some graphite paper, some tracing paper, something like that that will give you the practice that you want to do for hand lettering. And that is with any font, not just the ones with the dots. Those are just my preference. But you can go to dafont.com. There are a lot of free fonts that you can get, download onto your computer, install them, and then print out different words. All right. So then to finish off my sign here, I'm just adding some distressing ink to my little words, and that is using vintage photo and just a little finger dauber. That is something that I like to put on my little finger and just add a bit of distressing to that. Then now I'm just going in with some buttermilk paint. It's more kind of off-white or ivory looking, and so I'm just adding a swoosh into each of the happy dots just to make them pop. Now I like to do this afterwards because I don't want my distress ink in my bubbles. I want that to pop, so I don't want it, to turn it brown. All right, so then here my blue pumpkin is dry, so then I tear off pieces of that. Then I'll go around and add some distressing ink just to, make it look more like a pumpkin, kind of put the ridges in there and that kind of thing. Then for the stems, what I use is just some of that same cardboard from that box. I just ripped off pieces of that, and then in that paper pack that I'm using, that Give Thanks paper pack, I just chose the brown stripe, and that is what I tore off pieces to add for the stems. So then I'll just hot glue everything together. And then once I start assembling my pumpkin, I remember I need to go ahead and add some squiggles. I love to add the squiggles just to, for my little whimsical touches. Then I will add some paint splatters. I'm just using the buttermilk ivory paint. So paint splatters, I like to use a stiff brush and a stick. That is how I add paint splatters to my projects. Took off that welcome fall from the original video that I did on Facebook, and I replaced it with the welcome fall y'all, just with some hot glue, just putting it there. Now I want to add a bit of shimmer, and unfortunately the camera does not pick up the shimmer, but you can really see it. And I'm using this glitter dust that I got off of Etsy. I will have a link in the description box if you would like to check out what I'm using. I'm using the gold. And so I love that it puts a little shimmer on my projects. So then I just start assembling it there. And then I'm going to be using some tumbling tower blocks just to add a little bit of a cushion and dimension, more dimension, for underneath my pumpkins, because since this is a decor piece and I want it to last for a long time, I want it to be secure. So those little tumbling tower blocks work great for little projects like this. Now for the fun part of adding some of the embellishments, I added some fine excelsior. I like to get mine over at Hobby Lobby, as well as these berries. I got this berry bush over at Hobby Lobby. I just pulled off sprigs of those berries and added them for like the greenery for my pumpkin. Now for the bows for my pumpkins, I ripped strips of homespun. Now I got this homespun at jubileefabric.com. I also have some muslin as well as some brown tan fabric. I'm just ripping off strips of that just to make a bow for each one of my pumpkins. And you know, I sometimes less is more, and so I do, you know, kind of sometimes I make my bows a little bit too much, and then once I get them on there, I'm like, yeah, that's a little bit too much. So after it was all said and done, I went back and I cut out some of that burlap, that frayed burlap ribbon that I'm using. I had used 2 small strips of that, like 6-inch strips, and I went back and I cut out some of that of there because it kind of covered up my stem. And so I only say this to encourage you that, you know, you can always readjust your projects. You know, if it doesn't look right, follow your gut, you know, follow your instinct, your eye, that kind of thing. God has given us that discernment for a reason. So this right here, that frayed burlap, I went ahead and I used 2 strips of this on each pumpkin. Yeah, that was way too much. So don't even waste your time or your product on that if it's too much for you as well. And so I also added some cheesecloth in there, and I coffee stained my cheesecloth with, or I just got the cheesecloth at Walmart in the canning section, and I just put it in a bowl just with some coffee stain, let that, or coffee, you know, watered it down, and then let that soak for, I don't know, an hour or 2. And then I laid it out to dry on my counter, and it works great. Or you can get coffee or unbleached cheesecloth over in the Hobby Lobby sewing section. I've shared that on previous videos, but in this one I'm actually using some of the coffee stain cheesecloth that I did. And so I just made little bows with that, and I attached them with or I used a zip tie just to attach everything together, and just hot glue them there in the middle of each of the stems. And so, yeah, like I said, it's a little bit too much of the bows. Even after I went ahead and, you know, cut everything down. Then when I took the picture, I'm like, yeah, it kind of really covers up my pumpkin. So like I said, sometimes less is more, but you know, it's kind of like we have all of these fun patterns, all this fun fabric. You're like, wow, I want to use all of that. Well, yeah, sometimes less is more. So anyway, just to finish everything off, I added some just different florals that I had. Now I got these from Hobby Lobby and just added some of those. I also added some of this pampas grass in the finished picture. I didn't get it on film for whatever reason. I was really struggling this day with my filming. Things weren't working out, but I'm glad that I'm here with you. And that pampas grass I got in the wedding section. It's on a garland. So look for that when Hobby Lobby has their stuff on sale. They have it in natural as well as in dusty pink.